and we're back in record time.
Welcome to Voices of Harpswell, hosted by Harpswell's Bicentennial Project and funded by the Maine Bicentennial Commission. In this series of interviews with people from all geographic areas of Harpswell, from all ages, from all interests, newcomers to those whose families stretch back generations, we hope to compile a picture of Harpswell today in this tumultuous year of 2020, the 200th anniversary of Maine's statehood. Today, we have with us a person who has just celebrated an important milestone with a kind of unique celebration to 2020. Will you tell us your name and a bit about that?
My name is Joe Andrew, and on May 26th, I celebrated my 94th birthday.
Oh.
My daughter decided to let people know, and they had a drive-by, and she gave them an ice cream sandwich from the ice cream place down the street, and I gave them each a painting, and we had a great time, and there were some people who came by from all over the place, so it really was exceptional. It was happy 94th and so forth. I was trying to keep that a secret, but it's too late now.
Yeah, but what a great way to take a bad thing, COVID-19, and turn it into a fabulous celebration. So that's really
It was
fun.
a fun day, really.
Yeah,
It was the best birthday I ever had.
Oh, that's great. Well, so you came here in 1959, right? Tell us what brought you to Harpswell.
I was teaching math in Wellesley, Massachusetts, and the government had a program to go to various colleges throughout the country to get a master's degree in math going summers. And I was accepted at Bowdoin College in 1959. Well, I was tutoring a young fellow whose grandmother knew Harpswell, and so she knew that I had to have a place, so she recommended Harpswell and the Thorburns. So I went to Bowdoin 4 summers, 1959 to 1961, to get a master's degree in math. And there were a great number of applicants. 60 were accepted and 15 finished. We worked very hard, and there were a few teachers from New York who already had their masters, so I was in great competition. I worked very hard, but I managed through. And that's what brought us to Harpswell. And the woman grandson whom I tutored recommended that I go to see Dick Lilly in Wellesley, who was an optometrist, because his wife, Ruth, lived here in Harpswell. Well, I went to see them, and I took this place, sight unseen, and we found that little bungalow, and it was fabulous. We spent 4 summers there while I finished my degree. Then I got a job at Augusta looking into physician assistants, and so we stayed 3 more years on the Thorburn place. And then I found my own place in Harpswell. And being in Harpswell has changed my life. I retired at age 62 to go into real estate. Then I retired from that, and now I call myself an artist, a retired artist. But anyway, it's been a wonderful experience being in Harpswell. Now, I know there's a lot of nice people all over, but there's a lot of nice people here in Harpswell.
Wow.
And I'd like to talk about some of them.
Great.
The first one comes to mind is Shubal Merriman, whose farm adjoins my farm. And when I bought that place, his cows used to come on my land, and he said, I suppose I can't, no, Shubal, keep on doing it. Well, Shubal was a very interesting man. He lived with his brother Lawrence, whom I never met, who died, and Lawrence was married to a Clara. Shubal lived downstairs and Clara lived upstairs. And I'd go and spend hours with Schubel talking about animals and animal husbandry. He knew everything there was to know.
Wow.
Very interesting man and very kind. Then I bumped into Irving Chipman, one of the smartest guys I ever met in my life. And his son isn't too far behind him. That's David and Ronnie Chipman. I knew those guys when they were little kids. They used to help me fix my lawnmower and so forth. Another person that I thought a lot of was Mr. and Mrs. Bailey, the original Mr. and Mrs. Bailey. Not Billy the son, but Mr. and Mrs. Bailey. They used to come up and visit us. And their store was at the end of our road. And my kids used to go up there and buy penny candy and charge it. One year we came back, and young Billy said, "Joe, you owe me $1.39. I forgot to pay him. But the kids used to go up there, and I'd allow them to buy 5 or 10 cents worth of penny candy. So it was really a wonderful experience. That store was the nucleus of this whole Harpswell. Another person was Arthur Moore, Keiko. Keiko lived at the very beginning of Allen Point Road, and he helped me, and his kids helped me clean out the barn and so forth. One of his kids was Dennis Moore, for whom we have our recycling center. They helped me with getting stuff out of the barn, hay all over the place. And another guy was Bill Sparks, who helped me with fixing my place up for water because it had no electricity, no water, and so forth. But it was a farmhouse off the road near the water in Harpswell. And I was so lucky to get that. And a Joe Comey, who used to visit and stay at the Thorburn place, was a good friend of mine because I used to see him every day sunbathing. And I was at the Brunswick Savings Bank trying to get a mortgage. And Bert Whitman, who was the CEO of the bank, said, "What do you got for collateral?" I said, "Collateral? I teach." Just then Joe came and said, "Give that man anything he wants." Wow. They gave me the mortgage on my teaching salary.
Wow. Yeah.
Wouldn't happen today.
That's right.
Another person I'd like to talk about are the Thorburns. They own that lovely piece of property facing out the ocean. And they had that bungalow which we rented. And when we came here, it was a cold, foggy day. My wife said, "What's so great about this place?" Well, the next day, the fog lifted, and there we had this beauty. There were no houses. It was magnificent. And there was Marion Thorburn and Helen Thorburn, who were sisters who married 2 dentists. And they had an undivided half of that property. There were 2 kitchens side by side, duplicates. And Ruth and Dick used to come up on weekends, and we got to know them very, very well. And there was Howie and Connie and Hall. Hall taught me how to sail. He took me across the bay, took me back, he says, "You can sail."
Wow.
Yeah, I learned to sail. But Helen Thorburn, I think Marion died first, and now the property had to be divided. Helen had one son, Bob, Robert Thorburn, and there were the cottages, and there was the big house. Well, Helen couldn't take care of the cottages, so Bob took the cottages and Helen took the big house. Another person who I'd like to mention is Mal Clark. Mal Clark lives in what is Sunset Farm now, and he was one of the most exceptional tennis players I've ever met. He was 20 or 30 years older than I was, but he could play tennis as well as anybody. We'd play every day. And he'd always beat me, 6-4, 6-2. But one day I beat him 6-love, 6-love. He said, we played the next day. He said, Joe, you'll never do that again. And I never did. He used to go to the senior tournaments all over the country. I used to train him. I was his trainer. I'd come home ragged. My mother used to say to me, you're going to die on the tennis court. But we always drank water from the tennis cans. But he was...
Did you play by town? Did you play down right on there by the recreation tennis courts,
Yes,
right here in
as
town?
a matter of fact, Fred Foley is another guy I'd like to mention.
Yeah.
He said to me one day, he knew I was a tennis coach, would you help me? And I said, yes. So he got the church to rent that spot for $1 a year, and we promised not to play tennis on Sunday mornings, and we dug holes by hand to put wooden posts and chicken wire for fencing, and then we got more and more, and so we had a regular tennis court. And every Sunday we had a tennis tournament. Well, it wasn't a tournament, it was a tennis rally with various people. My wife and I would be partners. My daughter and Bill Wells would be partners. Mel Clark and Avery Hunt would be co-partners. Well, one season, Gloria and I won because Bill Wells sprained his ankle, so we won by default. But we'd do that every Sunday, and he'd bring a batch of tea, and it was just wonderful. Various couples would play, and it was just a fun time. But I taught tennis there. My sons taught tennis. As a matter of fact, there's a memorial to my son David, who was killed cutting a tree down 22 years ago. And he lived in Harpswell for quite a while. And everybody loved David because he was a bright kid and he could do anything, or he'd try anything. So when he decided to cut trees, I said, David, that's very dangerous. He said, no, I got the helmet, I got this and that. But one cold February day, he was out cutting a tree, and it should have been out there, the wind twisted, and I think it broke his neck because there was no blood. It was one of the toughest things we've been through.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's life. It has its ups and downs. I write poetry too, so I wrote a couple of poems about that. Let's see who else. Oh, another guy who was very, very impressive was not Sheldon, but Herman Morse, his father. His father was a big, strong, fine man. He could build boats. He'd put the water line, and the boat would go in, and that's where it would land.
Wow.
And one day I said to him, can I put my boat on your land? And he said, yes, but you got to drill a hole in it. I said, Herman, you want me to drill a hole in my boat? He said, yeah, so the water can go out, and then we'll put a plug in. He said it, so I did it. And of course, we put a plug in, and it's lasted for 40 years.
Wow. Wow.
And then young Sheldon, who is now old Sheldon, was 18 years old. And that's where I learned cucumber sandwiches were delicious. That's what he used to have for lunch. And he'd go out in his little boat lobstering. By the way, I don't quite remember this, but I think lobsters were 35 cents a pound.
Wow.
And one of my friends said to me, you couldn't afford them then even. But young Sheldon turned out to be old Sheldon, and his young Sheldon is a fine man, just like his father and his grandfather. By the way, Old Sheldon is a fabulous cribbage player, and he's a fabulous boat builder too. I bought a skiff from him. It's just beautiful.
Nice. That's great.
When we were first out, used to have to go to church every Sunday, so we'd dress all the kids up. We'd go to church, and then my wife would drive me down to the tennis courts down at the Auburn Colony, and that's where I would play tennis. I'd change into my tennis clothes and then hitchhike back.
Wow. Where'd you go to church?
Pardon?
Where did you go to church? Here at Elijah
No, we went up to the Catholic Church.
Oh, right.
I don't go to church anymore, but
But that's where you used to go. How many kids did you have?
we had 5.
Oh, nice.
There was Deborah and my youngest daughter, Nancy. So I have 2 daughters, and I had 3 sons. One son is in California, and he comes every summer, but he can't come this summer. And another son's in New Hampshire.
Oh, nice. Close.
But when I was down at the Auburn Colony, it was a privilege to rent there. And they offered me a rental. But I didn't want to do that because I had the kids and you had to dress for dinner. So I turned that down. But Farrington was one of the fellows I used to play tennis with. And we had a wonderful time. Bill Wells would come. And I don't think Mel Clark came. He was too good. My son Gregory got married on my farm, and Reverend Tucker was the minister. And we had a wonderful time. We had the tents and the porta potties and the floor for the dancing. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. And it rained, but that didn't bother us.
There, yeah.
Another person I'd like to mention is Mrs. Barney. You've heard of her?
No.
Well, Mrs. Barney had a place up the road here, and she used to make these pot holders. I think she made thousands of them. Well, she loved animals, and she had chickens. And one day, one of her chickens was missing, and her dog found the chicken under the barn. So she took the chicken into the house and gave it mouth-to-beak recitation,
No.
and it survived.
No.
It made national news. She wrote a book about it. And later on, she got elderly and she had Alzheimer's. And I used to go visit her at the nursing home. And she loved animals, so I always brought my dog. And she'd always say, I'm coming back. You promise? But she was a sweet, lovely lady. Places like Coddles, ever heard of that one? That was that's Hannaford's today. There was Dick Mosley who had the restaurant by the, and then they moved down the Lookout Point. And when I first came back to Maine to live, I stayed in one of their cottages, and I lived like a king because I had my own garage. They plowed me, and I had a maid come in once a week to make my bed and clean the house. I've never had it so good. But I decided to sell my house in Wellesley and put the money into my house now, insulated and so forth.
Yeah, well, talk a little bit more about that house. So that's one of the oldest houses in Harpswell,
Well,
right?
they tell me it's 1799.
And where it's on Allen Point Road?
It's on Allen Point Road. And we look across to Orr's Island, and right now across there is where Bowdoin has their boats. So I see them racing there all the time. It's just lovely to see all these little boats. and they're building a whole complex for sea stuff. You know, it's really wonderful. But I still sail, and I've had a lot of harrowing experiences sailing. Not that I was in any danger, but I had to learn. But Bowden is doing a terrific job over there.
Got to be fun to watch that too. But you had to do a lot of work on the house. You said it didn't have
my house,
plumbing,
yeah.
it didn't have electric.
Well, there was no water, no electricity, no plumbing. They used to have a pump in the house where the water would go in the pantry, where the water would go out the door.
Wow.
Well, that pantry is now a bathroom. And those boards for the shelves, I took 2 of them, and all I had was a hammer and saw. I'm very proud of this because I'm not a carpenter. I put the 2 pieces together. I got an old, nice pivoted handle, and this friend of mine said, "Look at this door. It must be 100 years old." But that's my bathroom door.
Yeah, that's great.
But right now, I've saved most of the windows in the kitchen and in the bedroom because they're blown glass. They're not very efficient, but I just didn't want to destroy that beautiful glass. You can see the bubbles, you know.
Yeah.
And I had that stuff blown in to insulate it so we can live there all year round. I used to have a fireplace, but I got sick of slugging in 6 tons of wood every year. So I have those heaters. And we're very comfortable.
Yeah. Well, so you've been in that house since the mid-'60s then, or the late '60s that you've been in. You bought that house then in like those '60s.
Yeah, I bought that house in '63. The year my daughter was born, the realtor came down to Wellesley because my wife was in the hospital having a baby, Nancy, and to sign the papers. This guy, Stanley Curtis, drove all the way to Wellesley. That's the kind of help I got. Well, his wife, when he died, I'd go visit his wife every year. She finally ended up in her own house, but she couldn't live alone. She'd have people come in, and I'd go visit her once or twice a year. She didn't want flowers. She didn't want cookies, cakes. What she wanted was my spaghetti sauce. So I used to bring her spaghetti and sauce. And her biggest complaint is she's losing her hair. So I said, wear a wig. But she lived to be 96, and her mind was very sharp. She remembered every detail, my kid's name, and she was as lovely a person as you want to meet. She died a few years ago.
Nice.
So the house has now been saved. I got a new roof, et cetera, et cetera. And Hewlett Martin, years ago, put a thing on my roof so I could have a loft for where I paint.
Okay.
That guy was like a monkey. He could climb up there. By the way, his wife died last week. She was 99.
Yeah.
And I used to see her every once in a while.
Yeah, there's something in that air on Allen Point Road. You guys all live to your 90s and well beyond, right? Yeah. It's pretty good.
Well, I think living in Harpswell is just a way of life that's rare. You don't argue with people. Everybody's helpful. I get more help from more people everywhere. I don't ask for it, but they see this old buck, so they help. Like I'm at the gas station putting gas tanks for my lawnmower. Some guy will pick them up for me.
Ah, yeah, that's great. Well, sounds like you spent a lot of time in your life doing nice things for people, so what goes around comes around, right?
Yeah, I taught mathematics for 36 years, 33 in Wellesley and 33 in Whitman. Let me tell you a story about that. I taught in Whitman 3 years until I got tenure. Then I looked for the best paying jobs in the state, and Wellesley was one of them. So I left there to go to Wellesley. And some years later, I met this woman, and she said, "What's your name?" I said, "Joe Andrew." This is years and years past. She said, "I had you in math.
Whoa.
You taught me to like math, and you taught me tennis." So she went into the NASA program and became an office manager at MIT. She knew all those guys. So I tell people I'm taking credit for the NASA program.
Oh, there you go.
But I met her again some years ago, and I'm in constant contact with her. She's now in her 80s, and she lives in Natick, Mass. And when I go to Wellesley, I go visit her. She's a lovely, smart lady.
Nice.
After I taught mathematics, at age 62, I decided to change positions. There were two things I wanted to do, was sell automobiles and sell real estate, because I felt you need honest people in those two positions. But I said, if I sell cars, I'm in a building like I've been in all my life. So I chose real estate. And that turned out to be a very wise move, because one of the first people I ran into was a guy named Jeff Vinnick, who turned out to be one of the 50 richest men in Boston. Oh. He now owns the Tampa Bay hockey team. They're down in Florida. Then I met this young couple, two lawyers, very bright people, and we became very friendly. They are now like my second family. Oh. She is now a judge, and he has his own firm, and he's very successful. And they have 3 children who are like my own grandchildren. And when I go to Wellesley, I stay at their house.
Oh, perfect.
Did
you sell them their house? Is that how you knew them?
I sold them their house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I used to like to work with the young kids because I think they needed direction. Today, you don't really need a realtor. You got the computer.
Yeah.
But when I was in the work, you needed someone to guide you where to live, how to live, and so forth. And because I felt it was more important that their life would be satisfied if they lived in the proper place. I wasn't interested in commission. I was interested in helping them. And as department head, I used to have to do a lot of counseling. And so I'm used to helping people because I get more out of it than they do. I like to tutor, and by tutoring, I told you that's how I came up to Harpswell. So things happen.
So it all had to do with people, the teaching and the real estate. But now art doesn't have to do with people.
You know,
Art's going off by yourself.
I have the solution to today's problem.
Yeah.
But no one will listen to it. Be nice.
Good advice.
How can you go wrong?
Right. There you
How
go.
can you get mad at me if you're nice?
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that's the only way to live. And by studying mathematics, I found there's always a solution. All you need is to work hard at it, maybe luck, maybe help, but eventually you'll find a solution. So never quit. And that's the way I live. At least I try to live. I am easygoing. I don't swear unless I'm alone. But anyway, I just like people.
But yeah, talk a little bit about your art, though, because you do a lot of art now. You do a lot of painting.
Oh, well,
right? How'd you get going on that?
When I was in the 8th grade, I went to parochial school, and when I was in the 8th grade, I won 2nd prize in a state contest for animal rescue. I drew a dog. I still have the red ribbon, not the blue ribbon. But I keep it. It's my pride and joy. So I've had that ability. And I can paint. I don't know what I'm doing, but it happens. and I love to paint. I find it very relaxing. I paint sometimes to music.
But you paint in acrylic, right? What made you pick acrylic?
I paint in acrylic, oil, and watercolors. I like them all for various reasons. Acrylics you can paint over quickly. Watercolors, you can make mistakes, and all of a sudden it comes out very nice, so you leave it. Some of my best paintings I could never reproduce. I'm pretty good, but I've never won a contest.
Well, but you haven't entered a lot of contests, right? So that's different.
Well, I give a lot of paintings away.
That's great. But you paint a lot inspired by Harpswell, right?
Oh, yeah. I go sailing and I come back and paint what I think I saw. I don't like a lot of detail. First of all, I'm not good at it. Secondly, if you want that much detail, take a photograph. So I like to do sort of abstract, semi-abstract. And some of the crazy stuff I do, I like the best. I like Picasso, and I like Van Gogh, I like Monet, I like Manet, Gauguin. They're all so brilliant.
Yeah.
You take these. I went to Italy once with my daughters, and those paintings are so magnificent. I wouldn't even attempt to try to reproduce those.
Well, so what is it that you love about painting?
Well, it's creative. It's challenging. You got this blank thing, and you want something to happen, so you start. And it takes a little bit of courage to start. And all of a sudden, this will happen, and you do this and try this. So I really don't know what I'm doing. It happens.
Yeah, so the expression itself is fabulous.
Yeah.
But now most of your paintings have water in it, right? So it's inspired a lot when
I
you're
like water, I like mountains, I like birch trees, I like boats.
So the whole, all of Harpswell, land and sea, inspires you a bit with that.
But I'll tell you, these people that I mentioned, I think I have some talent, but they are so superior to me in their knowledge and their common sense. I have to admit, I think I have a lot of common sense. But these people are brilliant in their common sense. That Herman Morse, he was a big, big guy and kind as my. He said to me one day, "I don't know nothing." I said, "Herman, nobody can build a boat like you." And he was strong as an ox. Oh, and his wife Goldie was a school teacher. Everybody was afraid of Goldie, even me, because she was very strict. And anything she said, I said, "Yep, you're right." I've learned to allow people to express themselves, and I believe in the freedom of thought. Some people like vanilla ice cream, some like chocolate ice cream. No big deal. Some like Trump, some like Biden. No big deal. I don't care. Think what you want. As far as religion is concerned, I feel the same way. Think what you want. And don't hold any bias for what I think or for what I say. I can't stand a biased, bigoted person. They're missing the boat, I think. It's much better to be nice. My mother and father got married in the Depression. My father was a shoe worker, and they moved out of town. So here's this young guy. He's got a wife and a kid, and no job. So we went on welfare. I can still remember going by Crowley's hardware store in Everett, Mass., where I was born. There was a pair of roller skates, $2.40. I couldn't afford them. I'd walk by and look at those things. So I grew up poor, but I never realized I was poor, except, we had no furniture to speak of. But later on, the WPA came over. My father became a WPA worker. And that's when we bought our first parlor set. Then he worked for the GE in Everett, Mass. Very hard job. He was, I don't know what you call it. I forget what you call it.
Like welding or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But he worked very hard. And on weekends, he'd work in a restaurant washing dishes.
Wow.
And he wasn't educated. He went to the 8th grade because in those days, you could earn $2 a week if you worked. He was born in the north end of Boston. My mother was born in New York. All my grandparents came from Italy. And by the way, when I went to Italy, I couldn't stand any more beauty. It was just, everything was so beautiful. But I was disappointed in their spaghetti sauce. I thought it was too acidy. I thought mine was better.
So did your mother teach you with her New York sauce, or did your dad's
Oh
family
yeah,
teach
my
you
mother
with the North
loved
End?
to cook spaghetti. She used to roll the meatballs. I don't have her patience.
Yeah.
But she was 4 feet 11. She had a beautiful singing voice. And I was the first born in the generation of an Italian family. Joey, the saint. I got more positive input. I had an uncle named Michael. I loved him. I never met him. All I saw was pictures of him. He died at 29 from pneumonia. And I was told how wonderful he was. He was a handsome-looking guy. I loved him, but never met him. But I also worked for my Uncle Christie in a grocery store. That's where I learned how to cut meat and wait on customers, add and all that stuff.
And chat people up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I learned how to cut pork chops. Speaking of cutting pork chops, when I was in the Navy, I went to boot camp. And they found out that I cut meat, so they put me in the kitchen. And when you had pork chops, there were 5,000 pork chops.
Oh.
Chicken, 5,000 chicken. Oh. One day I cut my thumb. I said, oh boy, I'll get out of work. The guy looked at me, go back to work. But boot camp was quite an experience. The contingent of men came from Bangor, Maine. All great guys, and did they have an accent? Everybody made fun of their accent. Then I went to electrician's mate school, 16 weeks.
Wow.
Once I got overseas, they put me in the plumbing department. So.
Wow, but you got to learn all this stuff. So where did you go overseas?
I went to Samar in the Philippines. Samar is an island off the coast, Maine coast. And the Filipinos were religious. They had a big, big church. And I saw no action. However, the war ended in 1 week. They dropped the atomic bomb. Next week, they dropped the second one, and 2 weeks later, we were back in the States. So I saw no action. However, one of the jobs I had, there were 15 of us in a tent. And we'd go out to the ships and put the bombs on the barge and take them to shore. There were 3 tents, morning, noon, and night shift. One day we went out, came back, and I'm in my bunk. I heard boom. All 15 of these guys got blown up.
Oh.
Something went wrong. So I escaped. By the way, I escaped death at birth. I was 35 years old, and I met this doctor who delivered me. He stuck his finger in my face and said, you're lucky to be alive. I wouldn't come out, so I was a forceps baby. So,
wow.
I'm lucky.
You are lucky.
I've been lucky all my life.
Well, you certainly met a lot of fascinating people, and you've ferreted out such interesting facts about all the people that you ferret out. So you've seen a lot of change in this, in not only through your life, from central Massachusetts.
You know,
Everett
in the
to
old
here.
days, nobody had an automobile.
Yeah.
You walked everywhere. So I got legs from walking, playing tennis, but I am slowing down. I don't play tennis anymore, and I just feel lucky and happy. Let me read you a poem.
Yeah, please.
Another day. Another day, one more to live with enthusiasm and expectation. What route to take? Where to look for fulfillment and contentment? Will fate lead to what is sought? Seek a road without negative thought. Have hope and joy as companions. I live with two words, contentment and gratitude. Here I am, 94. I think I'm 50.
Well, you look 50.
That's what my mind says. My body says, oh, no, you ain't. No, I have slowed down. I can't jump. And if I'm on the ground, I can't get up unless I have something. Fortunately, I don't need a cane to walk around, except in uneven ground. I take my walking stick.
Yeah, well, you're driving that hot convertible. How did that come to be?
I've been in Harpswell now since I retired from Wellesley, about 12 years. I think I've had 10 cars.
Oh.
Well, I've had a little Fiat, and then I saw this little Mazda, and I said, I gotta have that one. So that's been my car for summers. I drive a bigger car in the wintertime.
Well, I would
That's
hope so.
only my summer car.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's great.
I love driving it.
So you're interested in cars, and you're interested in painting, and you still keep up with real estate, or are you totally
Oh, no.
not interested with
I
real
only
estate?
have my referral license. I don't want to sell real estate in Maine. It's too difficult.
Yeah.
You got to go down these dirt roads, and someone says, I don't like the color, So I don't sell real estate.
So you only really did that in Massachusetts when you were doing it full time.
I had a wonderful experience selling real estate, but no more. I have a referral license. That's all I can do.
Oh, okay. Well, but so that's still good. And it sounds like you still go to Massachusetts on occasion, so you keep up with your...
But I haven't been to Massachusetts since this virus stuff.
Yeah. Well, so COVID, so how has it changed your life? You used to go to the lunches, the Ha lunches.
Yeah,
Now
I'd go to those, and I'd go shopping a lot. But my time now, I mow. I have a big mowing machine. I love to mow. I watch the birds and the flowers, and my place looks like a golf course. And I got the brown legs.
You got a tan, yeah.
And I went sailing the other day for the first time this year. I'm late. I went into the water for the first time this year, yesterday. No, second time. I'm not a swimmer. I float. I was never a good swimmer, even when I was younger.
But that water's still pretty cold, right? It's like 63 or something?
It's cold, but refreshing. And it's really not that, once you get wet, you can stay in there for hours. There are these warm spots you find. I just love to float. You can just hang there. It's very relaxing. I go sometimes to Lookout Point down there, and most of the times I go down to the Thorburn place where I have my boat down there. By the way, there's another young guy there, Heidi and Hank Thorburn. Hank is an excellent carpenter. His wife, Heidi, helps him. Right now, they're fixing over their barn for their housing, and it's going to be magnificent.
So they're going to turn that into a house? You mean then actually
well,
live
they've already
there?
got
Nice.
part of it fixed.
Oh, nice. That's really great.
And he's a terrific boatsman. He can do kayak, and he wins. He's almost 60, and he can still race. And he goes to these races all over the country.
Yeah.
He's quite a guy.
Well, it sounds like you have friends from all ages, all through.
I'll tell you, I love everybody, but this is years ago. I met this friend of mine whose granddaughter and I went to look at the flowers. So I'm holding her hand, and a bee came. She said, "Go away, bee, you're bothering me." And every time I see her, I tell her, she's now 30 years old, "Go away, bee, you're bothering me." And sometimes I say that to people, "Go away, bee, you're bothering me."
Well, so of all the things you've seen change since you've been in Harpswell, so you've seen 60 years of change in Harpswell, really, from when you first came here.
Well, what I see is more housing going up. Where there was woods, there's housing. Well, you go up to Brunswick. Across from Shaw's, that used to be all forest. Now they got buildings up the gazoo. And they're doing something else down the road. And they're building in the air base. So that's turned out to be, you take, I don't know what these buildings are doing. They're building houses and everything.
Yeah, it's a huge change.
But the air base, we lost that because of politics. And that changed a lot of people's lives. But we're surviving in Brunswick. By the way, I've learned to like Brunswick, I've learned to like Freeport, and I've learned to like Bath a lot.
Oh, that's good.
I go to those places quite often.
Yeah.
I used to volunteer at the Freeport Community Center once a week, and I had a lot of fun because a lot of people got stuff cheap, clothes. Some lady came in a bag full of clothes, $3. You buy a beautiful table for $10. But I'm not going to volunteer there anymore because all the volunteers are older, and they're opening now 3 days a week, but young people are running it who work there. They get paid. But I had a lot of fun helping people find stuff cheap.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about your cooking. Sounds like your spaghetti sauce is pretty fabulous.
Well, I'm a great boaster,
Yeah.
but my kids say to me, they wrote this thing, "It's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am," with my picture on. I said, "Look, I'm only describing behavior. I make good spaghetti sauce." But I think I make good spaghetti sauce, and people like it. And one thing I put in it is mint.
Mint?
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, fresh mint.
Did you come up with that, or was that from your mother?
My mother, yeah.
Oh.
Bob Thorburn used to tease my mother, "There's not enough mint." But she had an expression, "You got to put cheese or it won't taste good." She said that every time we had spaghetti. But she loved to cook, and she loved to iron and that sort of stuff. When I was in Wellesley, I'd go pick her up in Melrose, where she lived, and take her to Wellesley, and 5 o'clock in the morning, she's down in the cellar, ironing clothes, cooking, and I'd take her home. She said, "I had a wonderful time."
Oh, that's what she loved to do.
She loved the kids.
That's great. Well, do you grow your own tomatoes for your sauce?
I have a garden, yeah, and I grow them, but I don't have any tomatoes yet.
Well, no, but I mean, is that part of the secret of them? Not just the mint, but your own tomatoes?
No, that's not. I like to do it with my own tomatoes, but that's the secret, I think, is the mint.
Yeah, good to know.
And the other stuff, I forget, some kind of herb you put in it.
Oregano? Something
No.
like that?
Not oregano.
That's all right.
But anyway.
But anyway, that's really cool that you like to cook. So that's your favorite thing to cook, but you cook other stuff too?
Oh, yeah. There's a dish called manasta. It's escarole, and you put garlic, oil, and dry sausage, and you boil it, and then you get cornmeal and you fry it as the batter. It's really quite good. And the other thing I like is what my mother used to call chambot. It's tomatoes, potatoes, string beans, garlic. All my mother's recipes were a little bit of oil, a little bit of garlic. When I was a kid, I wouldn't eat garlic because now I'll eat it raw. I love garlic. Yeah.
That's probably why you're 94 and are so healthy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
You know, I like the guy who says, I intend to live forever. So far, so good. That's optimism.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good note to lead on, too. Although you probably have some words that you want to say, too, that we haven't talked about yet. You've talked about so many things. You've talked about your career.
Yeah, but I thought I was going to talk about these people.
Yeah, well, you did. You did. You got more people, you mean?
Let me see. Did I talk about Shirley Morrill?
No.
Jeff Morrill used to have cows on my land, and Shirley, whom we see every Memorial Day, is still at voting places, voting and so forth. She's doing quite well. And by the way, on Memorial Day, I've heard some of the best singing voice ever. I don't know who that girl is. She's got a lovely voice. Have you heard her?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
she great?
Yeah.
And it's such a lovely, intimate time, that Memorial Day, because you bump into all your friends, you know. It's so nice.
That's a wonderful Harpswell tradition, too, isn't it? Well, I mean, that's the thing. Harpswell has its traditions. It has the Memorial Day parade. Others?
I don't care where you go in Harpswell. You go on this road, that road. One of the things the Henpee, the tennis courts, did was bring the kids together whom they wouldn't see. And it's losing membership now because of the virus and stuff. You can't get intimate. You can't touch. And another problem they have this fall is opening schools. That's a tough, tough decision. For the kids, for the teachers, for the parents, for the workers. That virus is so treacherous. Fortunately, in Maine, we don't have that much. Percentage-wise, it's nil. But when it's you, it's 100%. And I guess the best thing to do is wear a mask. I wear a mask and I wear gloves when I go uptown. I wear a mask to protect other people, and I wear gloves to protect me. So I intend to live forever. So far, so good.
Right.
My father was a hard worker. Not educated, but he used to do the crossword puzzles, read the Boston Post every day, but he smoked. In those days, it was okay.
Everybody, yeah.
And that's what killed him. My mother died from a heart attack, at 76.
Wow, young.
Yeah. She used to get these attacks where she needed oxygen, so she'd call the fire department. They'd take her. She'd say, please don't ring the sirens. But one day she was ringing, she died. She never knew what hit her. And they say when you have a pleasant death, rigor mortis doesn't sit and stay flabby.
Huh.
When I went down, I felt her arms, and they were as soft as could be.
Huh.
She never knew what hit her.
So she didn't know what.
That's the way to
that's
go.
the way to go. Right. Absolutely.
You know what Woody Allen says about death?
What?
I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens. Which is true. Those who can die in their sleep are the lucky ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to go for another 25 years, Joe.
Well, I
Holy
don't.
smokes.
There are two things that truly fascinate me in life. One is birth. When you think of these two microscopic things joined somehow, one cell, two cell, four cell, bang, crash, boom, bing, you got a human being. Sometimes things go awry. You got no leg, no arm, something. And the other thing that fascinates me, astounds me, is death. I don't have a better solution, because if nobody died, where would we fit?
Well, there you go. Right. Right.
And when you die, I have no idea what happens. my theory is you just die. You disappear. And I say, as long as I'm alive, my wife's alive. When I die, she dies. Now, my son and my wife are cremated on my land. I put them there. And that's where I want to go. I don't want to do it. I say to my kids, I don't want anything. When I'm dead, I don't care what you do. My will says, use what you can and burn the rest.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
That's nice to leave that for your kids so they won't have to be like, oh, I wonder what Dad would want. So now they know.
I don't care what you do. I'm dead.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, memory is a strange instrument we have. Our memory is fabulous. And it changes, it alters through time. I can remember when I was a kid, there were 2 steep hills that I used to coast. I went back when I was like 50, they're little inclined planes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but you know, you really lived through the Depression and you lived through the war. You've seen a lot of change in the world.
Well, you know, when we first came to Harpswell, there was a 4-party line. That's why I brought this little thing. There's a number here on it. Telephone, Harpswell, 9-16. Now it's 10 digits, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
big change.
cell phone, you know, I worked one summer at the MIT wind tunnel helping an engineer. This is 1958 something. I was his assistant. And they had a computer the size of this whole building, and it came out on a drum, ones and zeros, teachers. I just forget it. But I knew it was important. So when I became department head, I gave the job to somebody else. And I wasn't, you know, it's ones and zeros, on and off. And now you get photographs, you get sound, you get cell phones. In a way, cell phones are a great asset. But I think to use a cell phone if you're here and I'm here is ridiculous.
Yeah. I know, but when you think that that whole room is now in someone's phone this size, that same information,
And
you
Dave
lived
Chipman.
in your lifetime.
Dave Chipman, who's as smart as his father, he's done a lot for this town, has the tower. It's because of him that we have this place.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see the cookbook. Talk about Sunset Farms. Do you remember Sunset Farms when it was a restaurant?
No. This is 1951. I was in college.
Yeah, so it was, yeah. I'm not sure.
I just bought this for my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time.
Oh, nice.
And lo and behold, 9 years later, Sunset Farms right down the road. But they put that thing in front that spoiled it.
That square thing?
They
Yeah.
used to have weddings there and so forth.
Oh, nice.
It was a famous restaurant, like the Toll House, and
Yeah.
it's all over. This is all the entire country, and we have a place right here in Harpswell.
It's pretty great. Yeah, it is great. My daughter works in Portland, Oregon, and I met a friend of hers whose name was Brenda Foley, and we got chatting, and so I knew her for like 2 years. I'd see her every time I visit my daughter, and at one point she said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Harpswell." She said, "Oh, do you ever know Foley Field?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it's right up the road from us." She said, "That's my grandparents."
No kidding.
No, isn't that small world?
Fred Foley was the instigator of that. He and I and 2 other guys started that whole thing. I taught tennis there. My kids taught tennis there. And it's been, and that flag is a memorial to my son David.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. Well, so Fred Foley, was he a summer guy, or did he live here year-round?
No, he was full-time. I'm not sure he came from someplace else or not, but he had a nice place up the road.
Oh, nice. But he loved tennis, too.
His wife loved tennis.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why he asked me to help him.
Nice.
I tell people the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is be a parent.
Hey ho, roll and go around Cape Horn to San Francisco. Shantyman, sing, boys, pull on the line, and we're back in record time. Now at Bath down in Maine they built many tall ships. They were paired up and flanked and launched down the slips. The strength of our nation was built on the pine of the mast trees that harnessed the wind. There were schooners and sloops and all kinds of small craft. There were warships with cannon both forward and aft, and the queens of the seas, downeasters and clippers, mighty proud men were their skippers, with their hay